We're breaking down the 8 things you missed in Rick and Morty's latest adventure, Rest and Ricklaxation. Now, it should be entirely obvious, but in case you guys need it, here's a spoiler warning. And if you're still here and you don't want to know what happens in this episode, then
hit the sack, Jack!
First off, let's check out those pop culture references. We had some pretty direct call-outs like American Psycho and Voltron, but this episode also took some major influences from a few classic sci-fi juggernauts. After their death-defying space battle adventure, Rick and Morty receive medals that look a lot like the ones from the end of Star Wars: A New Hope, at a ceremony reminiscent of the celebration at the end of The Phantom Menace, with Boss Nass holding that glowing crystal. Then, when the spacefaring duo takes some time to detox at an alien spa, the whole split into good and bad versions of yourself storyline comes from Star Trek, the original series episode The Enemy Within, where a transporter accident splits Captain Kirk into 2 versions of himself, one good, one bad. Next, non-toxic Morty's stockbroker sales call had several cultural references layered into it. His speech was in the vein of many an alpha male business bro rallying cry that we've seen in the likes of Glengarry Glen Ross, Wolf of Wall Street, and Boiler Room. And within that tiger blood moment, Morty references the blue pill, red pill choice in The Matrix. But in addition to these direct homages to other sci-fi worlds and films, the episode also added to its own canon. We got Rick's official age, 70 years old, and there were quite a few Inworld references to past episodes, like when Toxic Rick powered up his toxicity beam, he used 2 Miniverse batteries, similar to the Season 2 episode The Ricks Must Be Crazy. Now this means Rick's been busy creating more of those power cells, making us wonder just how many tiny energy-supplying sentient species he has created. Also, when the fight between the Ricks crashes through the family house, Summer is watching The Days and Nights of Mrs. Pancakes, which is a throwback to the Season 1 episode Lawnmower Dog.
You don't know me.
Nice, Mrs. Pancakes. Real nice.
You do know me.
But if we're really going to dive into this episode, we need to find what makes Rick and Morty so toxic, because as we eventually learn, the health chamber they go into doesn't have a standard checklist of toxic qualities. Instead, it makes its decisions on what to expel based entirely upon what the user thinks of as harmful. So, examining toxic Rick and Morty should give us a pretty good idea about how these characters see themselves, specifically the parts they like and the parts that they don't like. Now, clearly Rick considers a lot of his more abrasive and self-destructive behavior toxic. Healthy Rick buckles his seatbelt when he drives, is considerate of Beth's feelings, and while he still burps, he makes sure to say, "excuse me," after he does so. But there's another part of Rick that you might be surprised to realize he considers toxic as well, his attachment to his grandson. Non-toxic Rick is eventually able to defeat toxic Rick by playing upon this weakness, which leads us to wonder, why exactly does he consider Morty toxic? Well, in general, we know that Rick considers most relationships detrimental. He's a lone wolf who always puts his work before the people in his life, so naturally he would find any personal attachments toxic. But there may be a deeper in-story reason as well. If you remember when we first encountered the Council of Ricks, they told our Rick that he would never be a true Rick because he actually cared for Morty. Caring for his grandson has prevented him from reaching his true potential, even if the way that he shows that caring is often pretty messed up.
Listen to me, Morty. Get your clothes off and get in the shower right now, Morty.
But that would explain why he'd want those feelings detoxified from his system. As for toxic Morty, we're sure he's composed of all of Morty's fear, cowardice, and self-doubt, but he seemed to take away Morty's empathy as well. Non-toxic Morty was a complete sociopath, which allowed him to excel in ways that regular Morty never could, including becoming a Patrick Bateman-esque stockbroker. It makes you realize what a negative effect Rick has had on Morty after all of these adventures, making his grandson think of kindness and caring as a weakness. Because it is. Just throwing that out there. If you want to succeed in life, y'all, don't have guilt. The only normal emotion he seems to hold on to is his love for Jessica. I just let it show. In his Wall Street speech, he mentions a redhead 2 lockers down, and when Rick finally tracks him down, he's still eating the tiny chopped carrots, the same thing Jessica ordered on their date. In fact, it's no accident that the girlfriend non-toxic Morty ends up with is a heightened version of Jessica, and it's also hinted that the reason he lets Rick find him in the first place is because he still wants to be with her. Maybe at the end of the day, she's the only thing that will prevent Morty into becoming a true sociopath like Rick. But what do you folks think? Did we miss any cool details? Was there more to Terry Folds than you thought? And would you like to see more adventures with toxic Rick and Morty? Let's discuss. And if that's not enough Rick and Morty for you, then you should head on over to Nerdist.com. We've got recaps, breakdowns, plus after every new episode on Sunday, you'll have a chance to win a free t-shirt from us and Spencer's. Be sure to like and subscribe and keep checking Nerdist.com.